For more perspective, I want to bring in someone who knows a lot about that region, retired Navy Commander Kirk Lippold. He was the commanding officer on USS Cole when it was attacked by suicide bombers in 2000. Commander, I appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Natasha. Wonderful to be on.
Let's get your perspective here because we keep hearing about fears of a wider conflict in this region. Are we already at that point?
Well, first, Natasha, I'd like to extend my thoughts and prayers, obviously, to those service members that were injured, especially during this holiday season. When you look at the larger dynamic that is going on in the Middle East and actually globally for the United States, we're in a period of extreme strategic danger. When you look at the Middle East itself, we are already seeing an expansion of the conflict, and whether we get involved in a larger Middle East conflict is actually driven more by our enemies at this point, specifically Iran, rather than any other country. Iran is the one, through all of its proxy groups, that has armed, trained, and is providing targeting information against U.S. forces and Israel for them to actually fire. And we are typically in a response mode these days, and deterrence is in fact failing.
I mean, what kind of response do you think the U.S. should be preparing for after these strikes?
I think first and foremost, we need to make sure that if we were to go kinetic, in other words, we were to get into a fighting war with weapons, that we have the necessary forces in the region that are trained, prepared, and have the logistics able to sustain them for an extended period of time, because we're playing away from our home field. It's a far and distant area, and we need to make sure that our allies in the region give us access to all the stocks that we pre-positioned there, that we are able to conduct ourselves in a manner that can eliminate a threat. But first and foremost, I think there's a number of things the United States can do. First, the Biden administration could put into place some crippling economic sanctions. We could do so with the help of our allies from around the world so that we can begin to cut Iran off from the economic resources that are allowing it to survive. Two, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or Iran nuclear agreement, at this point is essentially dead. And any hope being held out by the Biden administration that they can revive it, I believe, is a false hope. Third, and the option of last resort, is prepare for military action. At some point, while we could strike the Houthi rebels, we could strike the Iraq forces or the Iranian forces in Syria. At the end of the day, Iran must be held accountable for its malign actions and for attacking U.S. forces again in the region.
Yeah, another attack, as you said, and a U.S. troop was critically injured this time around. Does that change our calculus in all of this?
It absolutely should, because at this point, the last thing anyone wants to see, I think especially President Biden, is going to be another photo op at Dover Air Force Base where we are greeting flag-draped coffins. The United States does not need that, and we cannot withdraw from the area. We have vital national security interests in there, starting first and foremost with Israel, but there's a number of other nations in the Gulf Cooperation Council, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and others that we need to ensure are safeguarded from Iran, who is attempting to dominate, is to destabilize and then dominate regionally. So we need to make sure that we are backing our allies and doing what is necessary to hold them accountable for what they're doing.
You know, I'm so glad that you're joining us on the show tonight because you bring this very unique perspective. You were the commanding officer on USS Cole in 2000 when it was attacked and bombed by al-Qaeda terrorists. 17 U.S. sailors died there. I don't need to tell you this. Are you concerned that after the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan, that the threat from al-Qaeda specifically is far from over?
I think there is still a threat from al-Qaeda. It is as much an ideology as it is a group that can take action against the United States. And consequently, what it does, it provides them with a source of inspiration. The bigger fear that I have is that I lost 17 sailors on October 12, 2000 from that attack. What happened, though, afterwards is more concerning. Neither the Clinton nor Bush administrations responded to an attack that killed 17 American service members. And 11 months later, we had 9/11. At some point, we have to solve the problem, not the symptom. We have to go to the threat and hold it accountable. And that threat right now is Iran. Iran is the center of gravity, because when you look at it, Russia needs Iran in order to give them the weapons to sustain the fight in Ukraine. China needs Iran for their oil. Ukraine, it's useful for them to have Russia and China, but they don't need them. You take out Iran, and you have the also effect of hitting Russia and China where it hurts, and that's with oil and weapons.
So, do you believe that terrorist organizations, whether it is Hezbollah, whether it is Hamas, whether it is Al Qaeda, are watching this administration's and the actions of this administration? And what are they thinking? They're thinking what, Commander?
Absolutely. They're watching everything that we do because they know that it's going to have a ripple effect on specifically those other two nations I mentioned, Russia and China. They know that if we hold Iran accountable, that if we make sure that they do not conduct any further attacks, that we literally take their breath away, whether it's with those sanctions or whether it is with kinetic, and we actually attack the facilities, and that may mean that we have to actually strike in Iran itself, then we must be prepared to do so. There's no bluff. There's no red lines. We just simply say enough, no more, and we are going to hold you accountable if you do. They're watching because they want to know that the United States is a credible nation. Doing proportional responses is not deterrence. Doing a strike that takes their breath away, that is what is going to deter them. We need to hold their proxy groups accountable and ultimately Iran.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.